made a plan to acquire Discover for a little bit over $35 billion. The Capital One is the fourth largest credit card issuer, and Discover is the sixth. So them getting together would create essentially one of the largest credit card issuers in the United States and in the world. Now, as far as what's next, the CEO for Capital One projected being able to close on this by the end of the year, maybe into early next year. But of course, mergers like these require congressional approval for antitrust and to confirm that there's not going to be monopolies created. Probably the last one that you've seen was Spirit Airline being involved in a merger talk that got killed. When you talk about this potential deal, you have to look at the winners and losers. And from our standpoint as a consumer and a person in points and miles, we're not going to be the lead winner or loser. We're just basically a byproduct. These are two large for-profit companies, and so it is really all about their shareholders and being able to provide value to them and to build their brand. So when you look at Discover, they would be a winner on this because of two parts, but both tied to credit card volume. One, Discover is one of only 4 processors of credit cards: Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. And so there's been legislation that has been talked about as far as trying to address what Congress believes is a monopoly of Visa and MasterCard being processors. And some of the draft language would basically require any credit card company that is going to be using Visa or MasterCard to have a second one also that would be used to kind of bring in more competition. While those 4 are the largest, there are some smaller ones that could be in play. And for Discover, that type of legislation could mean more business for them overall. But this deal, the two things that end up happening with it are, one, the MasterCards that Capital One has would be ones that very well could be moved out of MasterCard and go to Discover, which would increase their processing. And then as well as I mentioned probably in a video before, in a video that'll be coming up actually, is that Capital One has a large assortment of credit cards. They used to be really more of a credit card company that worked with, exclusively worked with people that had damaged credit and that were trying to build their credit. They have tried to turn that a bit in which, when you see the Venture, the Spark Business, and the Venture X personal and business credit cards. So they've gone from damaged credit and trying to address those to now the Venture X is one of the tougher ones to get and have to deal with that. So that would be the thing that Discover ends up benefiting from. Increased cards from Capital One going to Discover, and then secondary is being able to process more because of moving things out of MasterCard into the Discover realm. No thoughts probably of Visa. Those are really for the prime time cards that they have, and they like the reach of Visa. So most people don't expect that there would be anything that would change as far as from Visa. Now, what does Capital One get out of this? Well, it's a couple of things. One is that they basically have an insurance policy. If that legislation goes through to expand the amount of work that needs to go to secondary processors outside of a Visa or MasterCard, they now have a piece of the pie by having Discover be that one. And they can potentially actually become a little American Express, a bank that also does processing. Visa and MasterCard don't do their own cards. That Chase has a Visa card. It's not Visa that has a Visa card. So they could build between the growth between Discover and for of what Capital One already has. That could mean a big deal. They could become a little version of American Express. And they protect themselves if that legislation goes through. They also end up creating a little bit more leverage of a Visa or a MasterCard because they could just transfer their business to Discover. So all of those things are benefits that would go to Capital One. Now, as far as Visa and MasterCard, Visa probably is not really going to be impacted that much, and I don't think you see a whole lot going on with their stock price, even currently. The MasterCard issue could be, as I've mentioned, could be more of an issue for them if this goes through. Now, we never really know what's going to happen with the Congress, as you can imagine. But I think that what we're going to see is a lot of debate. There is a faction of Congress that believes that Visa and MasterCard have a monopoly and would like to kind of break it up a little bit by letting Discover be part of a merger. But there are ones that are also, as you can imagine, look at the other side that this consolidates more business and may not be beneficial to the public at large. But it's gonna take a long time for this to potentially play out easily this year. And it's election year as well. So for right now, there's really no impact to us. I think one other thing that could be interesting is Discover, if they do merge, Discover basically mothballed all of their travel benefits that they had on credit cards in a while back ago. And they don't really have a points kind of value of the major ones of Capital One, American Express, Chase, and Citi. This could maybe in 2 or 3 years, once they end up having a potential merger, you may see where Capital One points can kind of tie with Discover and make those cards more valuable. So that would be something that could end up looking at. Definitely would be interested in you all's opinions on this. Definitely have a lot of time to be able to debate it. So that's the first topic as far as Capital One and Discover, something that'll take some time for us to look at. So as far as topic 2, was kind of scouring for credit card offers. And unfortunately, a couple of really good ones kind of actually went down today. But they do happen every so often. And let me go ahead and share my screen to go to Chase. Okay, so let's look at the Chase personal credit cards because there's a few items on there that look like that they may be something of benefit for us. Unfortunately, the 2 things that went down today, and we knew that it was ending soon, just unfortunately did not expect it to end today. And that was the Chase Freedom Unlimited and the Chase Freedom Flex. In addition to the regular $200 bonus, what they also were doing was 5% on gas and groceries for the year, for 12 months. It is a promotion that they've ran before, and those are kind of obviously bread and butter type of benefits. Everybody's putting gas in their cars and everybody's doing groceries. So what I would end up saying for that is, even though we missed out on that, I think if these are cards that you have an interest in, be patient for a bit. Like I said, these have been promotions that have come up every so often and can really kind of really accelerate that intro bonus for those 2 cards. The beauty of those 2 cards are they're both 0% annual fees. The Freedom Unlimited is 1.5% on all purchases outside of drugstores and dining, which is at 3%. Definitely both cards are ones that we that or in my household, and have been very good drivers for accumulating Chase points, which are so valuable. The Freedom Flex is a rotating category card. Definitely get plenty of use out of that as well. They're very good starter cards for starting your relationship with Chase, and ones that you'll keep easily can keep forever because there's no cost involved. So, but those are the two that unfortunately went down today that I was hoping I was going to be able to point out today. Then what we do is we're going to scroll down to Southwest. Now, Southwest, you may have heard of the Companion Pass. Basically, you earn a certain amount of points to be able to get Companion Pass for the year. Normally, what people have had to do is get one personal credit card and one business credit card to accumulate enough points for the Companion Pass. But right now, there's a limited time offer on all of the Southwest credit cards that if you just get one of the credit cards, regardless of the level that they are at, you get the Companion Pass through February 28th of 2025, plus some bonus points with a certain amount of spend. Southwest Companion Pass is very different than other Companion Passes that you may have come across. Delta has Companion Passes, but they're one-time passes. The Southwest one has unlimited use. It is for a person that has any interest and is comfortable with flying in that type of setting where you're basically you don't have assigned seats and everything is basically the main cabin. As long as you're good with that, Southwest has a lot of reach, and being able to fly with your companion for free, essentially a buy one get one free, outside of some taxes that you might pay for $11, $12 for a round trip. You can really maximize your points and miles with this. And like I said, they really have a very good reach on this. And you can end up changing, I believe you can change your person out once or twice a year, just in case. So if you are going with your significant other, and then you want to be able to switch to go with your child or your parents and all, there is flexibility to do that. So if you've given any consideration to the Southwest Companion Pass, this is a very good opportunity to be able to do that and still potentially preserve the ability to do this afterwards. That once you be able to use this through February 28th, you could still be able to look at getting a business card that might be able to help with getting another faction of that. And if you have a player two, when I refer to player two, I'm talking about a very good friend, a significant other, a spouse, someone that you travel with, and that basically you can play off of each other, of one person having the Companion Pass 1 year and then the other person gets it the next year, and kind of go back and forth. Really does a very good job of maximizing. So, and it's not stuck, quote unquote, to the lower 48 states. You can fly to Hawaii and be able to use the Companion Pass. So very unique, very good opportunity. There are 3 credit cards that you can choose from. And let me pull that up for those 3. And so that you can be able to see a comparison. Just a second. Okay. So these 3 credit cards, you're looking at prices. You've got the Southwest Plus, Rewards Plus, you have the Priority, and the Premier. Now, because all of these all have the Companion Pass included, you can just go with the lowest priced one, especially if you're not totally sure if you're going to be a big Southwest flyer, and just fully take advantage of that at the lowest price. And you're looking at $69 on for the Rapid Rewards Plus on the far left, the Rapid Rewards Premier at $99 on the far right, and in the middle is the premium card for Southwest, which is the priority card at $149. I would end up suggesting that if you are a Southwest flyer and you use them a significant amount, definitely look at either the premium card or the middle of the road card, the premier. The premier or the priority is the ones I would look at. They have very good benefits for people that are going to be flying a lot with them. And let me show you here. And so it's not so much the earning. It's a lot of times, unless you're going to, on an airline card, unless you are getting, unless you're spending on the airline itself, the multipliers are just not good enough to use the card for multipliers, other than needing to get the points for the original intro bonus. You're not likely going to spend earning 2 points per dollar on commuting, ride share. You're better off using flexible points, whether it is from a Chase Sapphire Preferred or from other credit cards that allow you the flexibility to use it for multiple areas, not just for Southwest. So so I would look at the Plus if you are new to Southwest or not sure how much you're going to fly with them. Use that, get the companion pass. If you're looking at the other ones, what we pay more attention to is the additional benefits. The 6,000 anniversary points and the 7,500 anniversary points for the priority. We're looking at the credit that you get on the priority, $75. That's a significant amount of your annual fee. And you would also look at 4 upgraded boardings for the Premier, for the priority, and 2 early birds for the Premier. And if you haven't flown Southwest before, early birds are basically where you are able to check in earlier than others before the main group, and that allows you a better chance to get further in the front, to be able to be one of the first ones on the plane. So they are valuable and they do have value. So something to consider. It's basically, at this point, we are seeing that it's talking about it is, we're not at ending soon, but we're looking at a limited time. So the time is running down with that. Once that normally switches to ending soon, it could be at any time. So give some consideration to those credit cards. They can be very powerful for that companion pass. The other cards that I would like to point out is for United. Chase is the only provider for United co-branded cards, and I should have said the same thing with Southwest as well. They have a limited time offer now. Obviously, this one is similar. Offer ending soon. So this could end up going away at any time. The 2 things that I would kind of point out with the United cards, and there are 4 of them. You start with the United Gateway credit card, which has a 0 annual fee, but doesn't necessarily get you much. So it's not a card that I would recommend to look at. I think the one you start looking at is going to be the United Explorer card. And that mainly because you have a 0% annual fee for that first year. You're going to be able to take advantage of the intro bonus of the 60,000 points for that first year. And then you can reevaluate in year 2 before the $99 fee kicks in for year 2. It's a very similar card as far as the fact that you're really only using this card for the sake of if you pay for United airline flights. Or if you're going to look at getting into the United Club, if you were looking at the Infinite card. And so let's look at that briefly, just so that you have that. We're going to skip the gateway card at 0% for a zero membership fee, annual fee, because it just doesn't have anything to it to make it worth in getting. Even if it has no annual fee, you still have to be careful of taking credit cards where you could end up looking at it impacting your 524 whenever it comes to Chase, and even what's now being kind of talked about as a 624 with Capital One, which is basically how many personal credit cards have you accumulated within the last 24 months. Chase is very infamous for their 524. Capital One is kind of, we're seeing more data points that are showing that they may be more of a 624. So things to consider. So when we look at comparing the credit cards, the Explorer would be basically the first one to look at. The Quest would be number 2, and then the Infinite would be the third. In the case of these cards, once again, we're not looking at it for the purchasing power of anything outside of the airline. And so when we are looking at those for purchases, we've got these are different. We're basically looking at 2x on United with the Explorer, 3x on the Quest, and 4x on the Infinite. Now, when we look at those, once again, that's all we're going to use this for. So if you're not a regular flyer of United, and especially if you're more of a person that's using points, then those multipliers don't mean anything. And I would look at the Explorer. It's a very good one to start with, especially with no cost. One thing that I would point out that doesn't get talked about a lot with United credit cards is that when it comes to those super saver seats, and when I say super saver seats, what I'm referring to is that if you can find a super saver seat related to United, that ends up having a reduction. And they have these saver seats in both the economy as well as in the business seats. When you have the Explorer or any of these 3 credit cards, you actually have access to a larger pool to be able to see those, the availability, and have access to those. And that is a rare thing with a credit card for an airline. Those normally happen when you just have hit a certain tier as a frequent flyer. And United ends up letting you be able to do that with just having the Explorer card to start off with. So it's something to be able to look at, and it's mainly for the economy seats is really what you're getting for this. But if you find a super saver in economy and go ahead and purchase it, you can wait list. And it's interesting. And I got to give credit to the Points Guy website, because this was really kind of only one of the places that I've seen it, was that you're getting the access to be able to see more super saver ones than the average person. So now you get a chance for that. But then on top of that, you're going to have the opportunity to wait list for a potential super saver that might be in business class. And even if you're not able to get that, then you also have the opportunity to get into business at regular price. But that opportunity with those super saver options are very important if you are a person that flies United a lot. So something else to consider. The last set of credit cards related to Chase is actually 2 things. One is the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless. Once again, this one still has a while to go. They just say it's their best offer, and it is one that we've seen a few times. That you sign up, and part of the intro bonus is 5 free night awards to be used at up to 50,000 points per night. Excuse me. Get some water. Okay. That is a very good deal. And especially for a card that is at $95. That is a card that is worth looking at if you have any interest in Marriott. But I will hold off on that a little bit to when we get to American Express, because they have an offer that is the same, but it is for their business card. And I want to touch base on discussing the differences of looking at the personal versus the business one. So let's put a pin on that for a bit and skip that for a moment and go to IHG. The IHG Premier, there's a limited time offer also on the Traveler credit card, but I'm not going to touch on that one also because it's a no annual fee card, which is nice, and you're getting 100,000 points with just $3,000 worth of spend in 3 months, which is also good. But I would encourage, if you have any remote interest in IHG, to look at the IHG Premier, which you're looking at a price of only $99 for 165,000 bonus points for the $3,000 in the first 3 months. The biggest thing that I would say, we have the business IHG Premier, and what that is getting you platinum tier status with IHG, well, which does help with with room upgrades, and that the points will never expire. But the biggest thing that I want to point out for this is that at 165,000 points, not including the spend that you do, there is a lot that you can do with that card. And if you're not completely familiar with IHG is obviously Holiday Inn, but they have upper end hotels of the Intercontinental Hotel that is in multiple places around the world. I've looked at, we have the same, about 172,000 points of IHG points that I've just never used. We're looking, I looked up what were some of the best redemptions for IHG, and was able to come across a really nice Intercontinental Hotel in Budapest, Hungary, where basically, because of that 165,000 points, as well as the aspect of fourth night free. Let me show you that right here. So you redeem 3 nights and you get the fourth night free when you're using points. Plus, you also get an anniversary free night each year. That is a lot to get into a $95 card, and I view it as a keeper card. But back to what you could do with 165,000 points. Basically, you could be in Budapest at their hotel for a week and still not spend all of that 170,000 points. It is a lot of miles. They have some very good redemptions in different parts of the world. And to do that for a $95 credit card that is going to potentially take care of our lodging for a week is outstanding. Close to home, one thing that I learned that I didn't have a clue about was that the Venetian in Las Vegas is actually part of this, and you can reserve rooms there with your IHG points. Not normally ideal though. During the week in Vegas, you can get very good deals, and during the weekends they get off the charts, and these points will be adjusted accordingly. But there may be something that you would look to do if you wanted to do something closer to home. But there's a lot of variety with IHG, so something else to consider. But definitely something I was able to take advantage of, and just holding on to those points, which is not ideal because the reality is points devalue over time. But if you've got a plan and a purpose, it could really do a lot for that first or that next big trip that you have. So those are the credit cards that I was looking at Chase, and ones that you might want to look at and consider, ones that are limited time or ending soon. The other credit cards, one credit card, a couple of credit cards I want to point out is American Express. And so when we're looking at American Express, we're going to look at Resy first. Let's see, right there. So Resy is a platform, a dining platform that American Express purchased a few years back. They've really tried to make it a platform that um, tries to provide significant value for people that are part of that program. I must admit, I've not used Resy. There's a few restaurants in my town where I'm at that are Resy, but none of them have really appealed to me. Now, I do have to admit, I did watch a video from Anthony Venture that talked about him being able to get in at a very nice local restaurant to him through Resy. So maybe something I'll consider in the future, but not something I've done so far. But the thing with the Resy deals is that if you went onto the American Express website right now, the gold card, I believe, is at 60,000 points, and the American Express Platinum is 80,000 points. Now, every now and again, you'll hear about some referral links that people may end up having on different websites. Those are fleeting, so I don't necessarily touch on those as being something to look at. If you come across it, great. But I think the Resy deal is pretty interesting, and they normally do have this. They just don't talk about it a whole lot. So for the gold card, you're getting 15,000 additional points with the same amount of spend on this card. Plus, you're getting a statement credit for up to $250. Not a large amount, but it's still something more than what the average deal is. And then for the Platinum card, you're getting 20,000 extra points, but the restaurants that you are able to use to get 10x on for the first 6 months, especially if you're a person that go out a lot, this could really add to those points and makes it a very good offer to consider if you're doing the Platinum or the Gold card. But we're going to talk about some concerns that we have to have with the Platinum and the Gold card if we're going to acquire them, and when and how we do it. But we'll touch on that shortly. The other credit card that I want to touch on, as I mentioned, is the fact to look at the Marriott business card is what I would like to take a look at. And this is the one that we're basically going to be comparing to the Marriott Boundless that we saw. And let me go and refresh this. Fortunately, American Express puts a timer on there just looking at their website for some odd reason. So let's look at the business cards that they have. And we're going to scroll down to right here, the Marriott Bonvoy Business. So as you'll see on this one, this has a $125 fee, a little bit more, but the same promotion of 5 free nights up to 250,000 Marriott Bonvoy points. It does have a higher spend at $8,000 over the first 6 months. Here's the dilemma that I would end up pitching to you to consider, though. They both have the same 5 free nights. The two parts that I think you have to look at is if you, and let me say this briefly about business cards. You don't have to have a fully up and running business. You don't. When my wife and I started getting business cards, it was based upon the thought, a vision of what we wanted to be able to do. It can be that you're going to do a travel vlog. It could be you writing the next best novel. It can be consulting. It can be any of those things. As long as you are able to tell a credit card issuer that this is your vision, This is what you want to be able to do, and that you have a plan for it, and you have an idea of what you might be able to make in it. The reality, the more important aspect is going to be your credit score and where you stand financially. As long as you have a decent credit score and you are financially stable and balanced, you can get business credit cards. And the benefit of business credit cards is that they do not show up on your personal report. So if you would run your credit report and you have business cards, you will not see them. Even though they're your cards, business cards are treated differently. The other aspect is they don't tie into the whole Chase 524 or the the Capital One 624. Those are only for personal credit cards in the last 24 months. So that is a benefit that I would consider with the Marriott Bonvoy business. The other aspect is there is different languages that kind of pop in and out related to the Marriott cards for American Express and the Marriott and the personal cards. The Marriott cards for American Express and the Marriott cards for Chase, where at certain times you cannot get the personal card of the other brand if you already have one. And because of the way these languages are going, and that's what we're going to talk about with American Express's family drama language, as I say, it is something that you may want to look at considering a business card, especially if you have business cards already. But even if you don't, it is still something that you may want to look at considering. Now, when we're talking about these 5 free nights and 250,000 points, a couple of things of warning, just so that we're all on the same page. One is that if you use those certificates, that you go ahead and get them. And if you are staying in a Marriott that costs 35,000 points a night, you don't get the difference. So you'll use your 50,000 point certificate for a 35,000 point hotel, and you've lost those 15,000 points. So it is different than being able to just use Marriott Bonvoy points. I'd rather have 250,000 Marriott points than 5 certificates at 50,000 points a night that total 250,000. The second thing you have to keep in mind is that while the points don't necessarily expire, those certificates do. The certificates are only good for 1 year, and you're not likely at all to be able to get them to extend it. So if you're going to go this route of either of these cards, make sure you have a plan in place of where and when you are going to go, so that you can truly maximize those points in those certificates. The other part of it is that Marriott also has a similar program of staying so many nights, get 1 night free when you're using points. That doesn't apply when it comes to the certificates. So you're not going to be able to use that 4th night, get a 5th night free with these certificates. It doesn't apply. So all of this is not to say that this is bad. It's really just to make sure that you truly understand that when you do this, really have a plan in mind, because you definitely don't want to end up having to forfeit them because you didn't necessarily know where you were going to go and you just picked this up. Your schedule changes and you're not able to fly out and take advantage of these during that first year, and then you lose the points. You just don't want that to happen to you. It would just be absolutely brutal. So that's the thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes to whether you look at the Bonvoy business or you end up looking at the Bonvoy personal card through Chase. So, but definitely put comments in and let me know what your thoughts are in regards to it. So as we keep moving along, let's go ahead and stop sharing there. And let's now move to the third item here. Topic 3, we're looking at the Hyatt spring promo, and we're going to look at the devaluation. So as far as the spring promo, as you can see, it's basically It starts tomorrow on March 1st, but you can register from now all the way through April 15th to become a part of this. And it's basically, you have to stay at a Hyatt hotel, really any of them around the world. You have to stay there for 3 nights, and you'll get basically 3,000 points back. So basically 1,000 points per night, but you must stay 3 nights. It can't be less than that, or you don't get the benefit of this promotion. The maximum is 21,000 points. So that's what the promo is. So once again, what do you need to keep in mind? Well, you have to make sure to register. And so if you go on to the World of Hyatt website, you can and click on offers, you'll see the opportunity to register for this promo. Definitely make sure to do that. Don't take a chance on potentially not being able to get those points. As I mentioned before, they have to be 3 consecutive nights. And the checkout dates need to fall in the time within the promo. So if you were at a Hyatt right now, you could still be able to get the points related to it if you're checking out during the promo. So keep that in mind if you do look at that. Now, as far as Mattress Run, now for those that may not be aware of what a Mattress Run is, and I'm relatively new to it myself from basically only the last couple of years. A Mattress Run is basically where, in order to accumulate points, you're going to either be willing to stay at a low price hotel to accumulate a night, or you, in some cases, you may just get the room and not even stay there. My wife and I did a lot of mattress running last year. We had, there was a promo through Built Rewards where you could get globalist status if you had 20 nights in a certain period. And where we live, there are a lot of Category 1 hotels. And so if you do the hotel Category 1 off-peak, that is only 3,500 points. So during that promo, there was an additional promo that kind of reduced the cost for us on some of those hotel nights, similar to this one that we utilized. And I think out of the 20 nights that we did, I think we only stayed at maybe 3 or 4 of them. It just was worth it to us, and to be able to get that globalist status. So, but in this case, is a Mattress Run worth it? Well, it depends. If you are trying to either maintain globalist status or you're trying to seek to get it, then it may be, but really only if it's not travel that you already have planned, then you really want to look to see if you have any Category 1 hotels that are near you to be able to utilize this and bring the cost down. I actually did look at mine hotels for this period to see if I might want to consider trying to do that to keep globalist status. But unfortunately, I have no off-peak time. I only have one 3-day block of off-peak time for this entire 2 months. So it's not going to be a Mattress Run I will look at doing, but your mileage may vary. It may be something that you want to look at. So that's why I mentioned check and see if you have any Category 1 hotels near you to see if it may be something that you want to look at. But I wanted to point it out because that's been the first promo of the year. And if you are trying to get or keep that status, it's definitely worth taking a look at. Now let's look at the Hyatt devaluation. Obviously there's people that are freaking out about this devaluation. And if you've heard of it, if you haven't, we're going to touch on it right now. So what's going on? Well, Hyatt has notified everybody publicly that they're going to be. They've done an evaluation of their hotels. Give me one moment. Apologize. Excuse me. they basically have let everyone know that the hotels are all going to be changing categories, many of them. Well, let me take that back. Not many of them, because it's about less than 10%. But what it is that 183 hotels are going to change categories. Unfortunately, 137 of them are going to increase. So they're going to move up a level or two, which then changes the amount of points that we have to spend to be able to stay at those hotels. But the effective date is not until March 26th of this year. So what do you want to keep in mind? Well, first is this is not new. This is not a rare occurrence. 2021, that is when we basically had the introduction of Hyatt going from one base level of points to having a off-peak, which was a little lower, and a peak price that was a little higher. So now you have three different costs depending upon what season it is. So that was a devaluation in and itself, because now you had a peak time that you had to account for. 2022, this was headlined by hotels that went from category 4 to 5 and category 7 to 8. Now, if you're not really aware of the Hyatt program or the World of Hyatt program, you may be wondering, well, what does that mean? What does that matter? Well, it matters in this. Hyatt issues out certificates if you meet certain milestones as you're staying so many nights, especially if you're going to try to get to Globalist, which normally requires 60 nights. You get a category 1 to 4 certificate, and you get a category 1 to 7 hotel stay. I'm sorry, up to a 7. And then if you have the Hyatt credit card, the personal credit card, you get one anniversary night, and it's for a category 1 to 4. And in that case, there were people that ended up losing hotels that they had certificates for as they moved up to just go outside of reach of those. So that's why it was a highlight of them, of that happening. And then 2023, we had the issue with the all-inclusives, because Hyatt has really put a lot of money into expanding their footprint of all-inclusive resorts around the world, definitely expanding in the Caribbean. Mexico are their main places that you're seeing. And when they did that, as they acquired all of these properties that they had to bring up to a Hyatt standard, we saw that they ended up increasing some of their existing all-inclusive resorts up a level or two, as well as the same kind of category 5s and category 8 jumps that needed to happen. So this is not new. And even with all of this, Hyatt is still the most valuable hotel point that there is. And it's still because of the sureness of what you're getting with those points. It's not dynamic, that just because the prices go up necessarily, it is not going in that same rate of that you would see on other hotel points, IHG, Marriott, and Hilton. So what do you do now? Well, there's time. Each time they've tried to be customer service oriented by making sure that this is that they give their customers 30 to 45 days to be able to get prepared for this. And so what you can end up doing is, if you know you're going to a Hyatt later this year and you've not made the reservation yet, you can still make the reservation as long as you do it before the 26th. Then you will get locked in at whatever the rate is right now. Now, with that being said, you're not going to get necessarily locked in if the price goes down. If there are a few hotels, not many, unfortunately, but there are a few hotels that are going to go down a category or two. So if you end up doing a reservation for a hotel where the category drops, you will be refunded your amount of points that are with it. And if they go up after the 26th and you've got your reservation, you will not have to pay it. So there is still time to figure out how you want to handle that if it applies to you. And the other part is, if you're not staying someplace for too long, yes, it's still more points. Don't get me wrong. Points are valuable, but you might be looking at maybe an extra 10,000 points a night in some cases with a category jump. Once again, it's not ideal, but it's not going to be a situation where it prices you out in most cases. So temper that depending on what you may be doing. And then lastly, like I mentioned, there are going to be some hotels that drop, not a lot of them, and take a look and make sure that it's not a case where maybe you were looking at a hotel and it's actually going to come down. So all of that to be said is that the devaluation, it is a devaluation, but it is not something that it's not something that was unexpected, and it's something that you do need to prepare for. My wife and I have experienced this the last 2 years. We ended up going to stay at one of the all-inclusive resorts last year, and we had already done our reservations before that pricing had adjusted, and it did save points. There's no doubt about it. We were there for a week, and we saved over 70,000 points by being able to beat that increase. And so it's going to be similar this year. Hopefully we've got reservations to go back to that resort, and the prices are going up again. And so we've locked in that number in our case. So take a look at what you might have planned. There's time to get this figured out. Don't stress about it yet. But this is something that we're going to see every year from Hyatt. It's just the way that it's going to work as they try to figure things out. One of the things that you have to kind of keep in mind is that when I say we as points and miles people, when we're using points, and if we stay at a hotel that has high occupancy, which is one of the reasons why we're seeing category increases. If you are staying at one that has a high occupancy, Hyatt/World of Hyatt has to pay nearly the market rate for your stay there, and that's obviously a lot of money. As opposed to if it has low occupancy, it is much less that they have to pay out in regards to it. So the more popular hotels are the ones that are obviously getting raised and increased in their categories to try to help them keep up with that. So just something to keep in mind. If you've got questions about this devaluation or with the spring promo, be sure to put comments into the show, and I'll definitely make sure to keep up with those and answer any questions that you may have. So topic 4, and this is kind of what I kind of talked about briefly, was the American Express family language. And what does it mean? So you may or may not have heard that ever since back in October of last year, the people were starting to find changes to the terms and the language of certain credit cards. And it was mainly, first saw it in the platinum and the gold card for American Express. But we've seen that expanded. And so what it shows, and like I said, what I'm calling the drama language, it essentially says that you may not be eligible to receive a welcome offer if you have or have had this card, the assortment of platinum cards, and the gold card. That's paraphrasing. So what it means is that if you don't have the green, the gold, and the platinum cards, and you choose to get the platinum card first, then what the language says is that you now don't have the ability to get the bonuses of the gold and the green. They want you to truly treat this like a step ladder. If you want the intro bonus points to every credit card. So you would need to get the green card first, then the gold card, then the platinum card. And that is how you would have to do it to be able to maximize the introductory points of all of them. The same language is now in the cashback lineup that they have. It is also in the American Express Everyday and Everyday Preferred credit cards, and it is also in the Delta Personal credit cards. So essentially all of the personal cards pretty much are now impacted by this family language, which is basically you can't step down to get a card and get the intro bonuses. You must always be stepping up. So what's the impact to us? Well, it's a lot of impact. It requires a lot of consideration of what we're going to do. So much so that what I would end up saying is, if you are looking at the American, let's just stick with the charge cards first. The green card, the gold card, and the platinum card. If we're looking at the green and the gold and the platinum card, I would say in most people's cases, you're better off just starting with the green card, moving to the gold, get the platinum, maximize the full introductory bonuses on all three cards. The green card is a bit undervalued at that price of $125, I believe it is. But there are credits that come with it. It does come with travel benefits, and it's you can. I think in most people's cases, you can essentially cancel out the annual fee with the benefits that come with it. So it is something that I think you should at least give consideration to. Let's actually take a look. Let me pull up the personal credit cards real quick. And let's take a look at the green card. Let me get that real quick. Apologize. Takes a moment to get it pulled up here. All right. So let's share the screen. And American Express. There we go. So when we're looking at the American Express green card, you're talking about $150 annual fee, but we're talking about 40,000 points. And these American Express points do mean a lot. It is, in my case, we have points with basically every major entity: the Chase, the Capital One, Citi, and American Express. And American Express is my driver for airfare. That is where I charge all my airfare to with their points. And 40,000 points is a lot to just bypass. And it's definitely something you'd have to give a lot of consideration to. So if we look at the green card and what we get with it, so we're getting 3x on travel, 3x on transit. And that's that transit one, from tolls to rideshare to taxi cab, is a very good rate, actually. The 3x on travel is kind of average, but that's okay, especially if you're just kind of starting with the American Express charge cards. And dining at restaurants is 3x. But on top of that, what you're getting is you're going to get the $189 Clear Plus credit. That alone exceeds the cost of the annual fee. You're also going to get $100 Lounge Buddy credit. And Lounge Buddy is basically a third-party program where you can get passes to lounges, and you pay a fee for it. And with this $100 credit, that would probably allow you to get into a few places, Priority Pass kind of places, and some other ones. Probably get you two stays. So now if you're going to travel, that's $289 worth of value for the $150 that is the annual fee, plus you're getting the 40,000 points. So it's definitely something I would say that, especially for those charge cards, probably in 95% of the cases, you're going to want to follow the steps: green to gold to platinum. So just something for you to consider and to see what that impact is, especially when it comes to those cards. We're not seeing it on the business side as of yet, and I think that's mainly because of the money that is coming in to American Express for business. They're not looking to tick off those people that are doing that because a lot of people probably a lot of the people that have their business cards are not just getting getting intro bonuses. I'm sorry. Most of them are going to be corporate and other businesses that aren't looking to do what we do at points with points and miles, and to be able to get every intro bonus we possibly can. So something to consider. And so that's the thing I wanted to talk about when it came to the American Express language. Topic 5, and if you're getting, I do want to say, if you're getting any benefit from this, please consider liking and subscribing. We're basically trying to do all we can to provide you with the information you need to make the best decisions, the best plans possible for you and your loved ones. So really would like to have you be part of this channel, and just thank you in advance. So as far as the Delta credit cards, we've seen that there was a revamping of them and the price went up. So I'm a person that both my wife and I have Delta Gold cards, business cards, and they were impacted with this as well. Delta is for my wife and I is basically our lead airline. So this does have an impact on me and my wife as well. But I've seen a lot of talk about these cards and what's the impact, and is it going to become like more of a coupon book like the Platinum and all? The short answer is yes. But as I would tell many people, I don't mind a coupon book if I'm getting value. I remember the times of cutting coupons out on a Sunday morning. So not a problem for me with it, as long as we're getting value, and that may be the same for you as well. So let's take a look at this. So we have the gold, the platinum, and the reserve cards. And similar to what we talked about, that family language, it applies on these two. Now, I did not put down the Delta Blue, which is the entry-level card, but has very little benefit. You can, I would suggest that you just bypass that one altogether. I think it's 10,000 Delta miles right now. It's definitely not worth doing it, especially if you're doing personal cards where it's counting towards those limits as we've talked about, Chase and Capital One. So the gold card, I think, may be a sweet spot for most people. We're looking at a case where the first year is waived, and you're paying then $150 each subsequent each year after that, instead of the $99. But right now, through March 27th, the intro bonuses have all been jumped up as part of this whole revamp and reintroduction of the Delta credit cards. So 70,000 points with $3,000 worth of spend in 6 months. You're talking about $500 a month. That's something we can all get to. And so it's something worth considering. Take off 15. This program is why I even got the card to begin with. Delta started a promotion that if you had any of their credit cards from the Delta Gold and up, that if you were paying with points, you would get a 15% discount. And at the time, as you can probably imagine, a lot of people were very skeptical, thinking that Delta was going to jump the points up and then take the 15% off, where the net result was really no difference. Well, actually, we've not really seen that happen, at least from some different data points I've read upon. And as a person that has used this takeoff 15 a few times, I've not seen where they upped the numbers and that it just kind of got the 15% got washed out. So That's another reason why I would not look at the blue credit card, which is the first one, because it does not have this Takeoff 15 program. So if you're a person that flies Delta and you use points, that program is valuable. And that's really the only reason I got that card and the only value I could get from it. I don't use it to make purchases. I don't use it to buy Delta because I normally do points. So it was $99 to get 15% off on the 2 to 3 flights I do per year. So, but now we're looking at, and I put down a couple of the 2x for dining, groceries, and Delta purchases. Don't use it for anything. If you're going to do a Delta purchase, fine. I would even say that may not even make the best use of those points, depending upon what other credit cards you have. So this is just, it's not a card for, it's similar to the hotel cards we talked about, that we're not using it for the purchasing power, we're using it for the benefits. And so the benefits that we're getting on this is we're getting a first check bag free. That's going to save you some money, $35, $40 each way. And now we have a $100 Delta stay credit. And what this is that this is to reserve a hotel room through Delta, which I believe is using Expedia. Right now, as far as I know, there is not a minimum amount you have to spend to get that $100. So if you find a room for $100, you can use that and get it for free. And that $100 Delta stay credit is enough, plus your first check back free, that you should be able to get value out of the Delta Go card. So if you are a Delta flyer, I think it's strongly worth considering, especially with the points. The Delta Sky Miles Platinum went from $250 to $350. Intra bonus is 90,000 points for 4,006 month spend, which is still very good. Now we're getting a couple of other introductions. We're getting $120 annually through Resy, which we talked about, which was the dining platform to use at any Resy covered restaurant. These are $10 per month. That's part of the coupon effect that we've talked about. We're also looking at $120 for rideshare at $10 a month. The rideshare is not specifically to Lyft and Uber. There's some regional ones that may be applied to some people. So if you're looking at that, something to read the line, the small print to make sure that if you're not somewhere where they have Uber and Lyft, to see if your local or regional rideshare is available. And then the Delta Stay credit is bumped up from $100 to $150. The companion certificate is interesting. So when you have a platinum card, when you get the platinum card, you get a annual companion pass. Now, this is not a Southwest companion pass that is used throughout the year. This is a one-time pass. And when I say enhanced, what it is that prior to this year, if you were going to do a use this companion pass, you only use it on the lower 48 states. Now with it being enhanced, now you can access Alaska, Hawaii, Central America, the Caribbean, Mexico, and really gives a lot more bang to the buck in regards to that companion pass. And that companion pass alone very well could pay for your annual fee, let alone the Delta Stay credit, the annual ride share, and the Resy. It's good enough at this point that I will probably look at considering moving up from the switching out of the gold to the platinum, and go after the intro offer, as well as that. And I think it's a keeper card. I believe the gold is a keeper card for most people. I think if you're going to fly a little bit more with Delta, that $350 price is you can probably make it work, and be a keeper card itself. Then we get to the Delta Sky Miles Reserve that went from $550 to $650. Intro bonus, 100,000 points for $6,000 in 6 months. And we see where the Resy has now gone up to $240 for Resy. And I might be wrong on my ride share. It might be $240. I apologize for that. I might have that slide incorrect. Let me take a quick peek to see if I'm incorrect on that. But in the meantime, I will look for a moment. And the Delta Stay credit now is up to $200, and you get a first class companion pass with the reserve card, and so it is now enhanced as well, where you are able to not just stay within the 48 lower 48 states for the first class flight. So that ends up helping a lot. And as far as the rideshare credit, no, I am correct. It is that number did not change. I was looking at the Resy and thought it might have. So what makes sense for a Delta Sky Miles Reserve person? Not many options. You in 90+% of the cases, the Sky Miles Reserve is not the card you want. You would be better off paying for the American Express Platinum card. You're going to get the same access to the Centurion Lounge. You're going to get the same access to Delta Sky Club when flying Delta, as opposed to when you're in this Delta Sky Miles Reserve. You have to fly Delta to get access to the Sky Club as well as the Centurion. If you're a Delta, if you're an American Express Platinum holder, it doesn't matter what flight you take to be able to get into the Centurion. You just have to fly Delta to get into the Delta Sky Club. Now, the number of frequency of how many times you can go into the Delta Sky Club is a little bit different. But if you're a average flyer like myself, 2-3 times a year, you'll have enough opportunities to be able to stay at those lounges without exceeding. While you might be able to get the value out of the Sky Miles Reserve, it's probably not the best choice for most people, but definitely consider it. But I think the gold and the platinum are going to be the ones that are really going to gain a lot of mileage for most people that are looking at these cards. So, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. And let's move on. So let's look at topic 6, which is the redemption example. And I wanted to kind of take I don't want to say simple one, but one that is kind of very cut and dry to kind of show you all what you're able to do with just even 2 cards. And it doesn't have to necessarily be these 2 cards that can really get you mileage, but this is what fits. This is what's going to what I'm doing in this particular case. So going to Las Vegas, and I've got my Delta Gold business card, and I have my American Express Platinum card. Those 2 cards are going to help me with my airfare, my rental car, my lodging, and even meals. So let's take a look at what I'm going to be able to get from those. So the Delta Gold is the Takeoff 15 that we talked about. And so I'm going to be flying first class round trip from the Midwest here in the United States to Las Vegas and back. That point value was going to cost me 80,000 points. And with that 15% reduction, I went down to 69,000 points. So 11,000 points, not necessarily a huge number, but every mile matters to me. It's nice to know that's kind of built in to make a round trip first class airfare for that. Consider this: if you look at the amount of points that you're getting from the gold card or the platinum as part of the intro bonus, that alone is enough for you to fly you to do the same flying round trip that I'm doing, and obviously, and at points in between. So that is a very good example of what an intro bonus can do for you like that. Means a lot, has a lot of holds a lot of weight. Then I'm going to, for my rental car, I'm going to be looking at the National Car Rental Emerald Club Executive. Done that one time before, and that is part of the American Express Rental Car Elite benefits, where they are providing near top tier for multiple rental car companies, Avis, National Car Rental, to name a few. And I liked the fact of being able to reserve a mid-size car under this program, and then get the access to pick a car that I want. Now, your mileage may vary depending upon where you're getting this from, but from like Las Vegas Airport, was able to get a smaller Jeep, which was fine. But it just gives you more variety. You're not standing in line. You just are going into this parking area, and the keys are in all of the cars. I think I tried out, not drove, but tried out if 3 or 4 different cars were good for me for what I wanted, and determined that was able to easily find a car that I would want. So I liked the convenience and not having to bother with people. Then part of my stay while I'm in Vegas is going to be at Resorts World. And I had the opportunity to stay there last year for my first time being at that hotel. Very nice hotel. And so for Resorts World is made up of like basically, I'll call it 4 hotels. You've got the Hilton there. You've got the mid-level Conrad. Then you got the 3rd level, which is Crockford's. And then on top of that, Crockford's West is like the top few floors of the Crockford's building. And a little bit more luxurious. And if you watch a commercial for Resorts World and you see that red Rolls Royce pull in and it's gated, that is specific to Crockford's West. So so when we go to Vegas, I'm looking at being able to utilize the American Express Fine Hotel and Resorts. Las Vegas is still a very good place for it. Has gone down a bit, unfortunately, because of the whole MGM deal that got done with Marriott. None of their hotels are showing up for the Fine Hotels and Resorts. So right now, I think I only saw 4 or 5 hotels. It was the Crockford's, it was the Wynn, and there was 2 other ones. It escapes me right now. But I only considered the Wynn in that one, in the Crockford's. But what you can get from the Fine Hotel and Resorts is I'm going to stay there for 2 nights. I'm going to be able to use the $200 hotel credit through the Fine Hotel and Resorts, and bring that cost down $200 a night for a savings of $400. On top of that, the Fine Hotel Resorts, if there's availability, will give you a free upgrade. And I did get that last year. Now I'm normally not there on the weekends. Be much harder to expect to get a room upgrade during the weekend, but during the weekdays, still doable. So I'm saving $400 from that. And then when it comes to the meals, you're also getting $100. Now you have to be careful with Fine Hotel and Resorts, because you can either get $100 towards food and beverage, or you can get $100 for spa. And that's one of the reasons why I did not consider going to the Wynn. The Wynn's $100 allotment was just for spa, versus food and beverage, which Resorts World had, or the Crockford's has. So you get the $100, plus you get breakfast for 2 each day that you're there using that program. And I'm showing $50, but when I was there last year, it was $66. So that whole program for Fine Hotel and Resorts is saving me nearly $350 a day. That is what allows me to even consider staying at Crockford's, because of that savings. And one tip for you in regards to this: you only get the $200 hotel credit one time. You can use the Fine Hotel and Resorts as often as you choose to, but the credit is only one time a year. Now, it is on a calendar year basis. So what I did was I waited till the end of December, I think December 27th or so, And then I made the reservation for one night at Crawford's, and did that. Then when it got to the first week of January, I then made the second night reservation, which is why I've got the 2 nights there, and to be able to use. So I'm using my two, because you don't have to use it within the year. You just have to use it. You just have to reserve it within the calendar year. So in my case, I've used my 2023 and my 2024 allotment for this trip. And if you've got a player too that has their own platinum card, now you can make that 2 nights into 4 nights, at a very nice hotel, and while keeping the cost down to where it is more of a middle of the road or better than average regular hotel cost. So definitely something to consider. Something I would end up saying that would be a very good idea to do. But that's kind of a, I'll say simple, but it's basically a redemption. That's the redemption I do every year. I go to see my in-laws every year, and so I spend a few days with them, and then I get a few days in Vegas. So this Fine Hotel and Resorts program is an outstanding program, especially in Vegas, to be able to get some really outsized value. So if you've got any questions about the redemption, definitely put some comments in, or if you want to see some other redemptions, ones that I've taken, or if there's some redemptions that you've kind of seen and have questions about, I will do the best I can to answer any of them.